Brian, I have a quiz for you.
Oh boy.
What do the 3 statements all have in common? Don't care, never got into it. Sounds like more of the same. And not my thing, but cool. Ooh, bonus points on number 4. No thanks, too weird. They're all things that Derek wrote about games coming out this year. True story.
Let's move away from lies and fears. Perhaps it's time to leave. Free from how you look or what they say. Like a lion runs wild through the wilderness. Free from showing off or living fake. Like the eagles flying high, dancing with the air. There's breath in your lungs to break. Say, God, take this mask away. You see, he won't let you stay. Living in hollow days.
Welcome this week to another episode of ShatterCast. I have with me Derek and Brian.
Yo.
Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to be talking about some upcoming games of 2019, things that have yet to release that we might be excited about. By the time this comes out, I know we're going to mention Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 will have come out, so that's important to mention. At this time of recording, it is upcoming.
Yes.
But by the time of viewing, you've probably
Already
lost
played it.
a lot of time to it. A lot of people are pretty hyped for it. Don't know if I am, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Derek, why don't you open us since you've given us so many wonderful notes on things you're excited about.
So we went through a list of popular games that are coming out. As you heard, I have some strong opinions about some of them.
Okay, quiz number 2. With your notes upside down.
I've honestly
Can you
only heard like
identify-
half of these games.
Can you identify which game you said this about?
Sounds good. Putting me on the spot. Here we go.
Okay, all right. Sounds like more of the same. Which game did you say that about?
Borderlands 3.
Ooh, good job. Not my thing, but cool.
Was that Pokemon?
It was.
Yeah.
No thanks. Too weird.
Death Stranding.
All right. Those were his thoughts. He remembers.
There we go. So we just wanted to do this segment because there's been a bunch of conventions that happen this summer. There's E3. Nintendo does a bunch of directs throughout the year. Gamescom and PAX Prime. So we just picked out a few, and we'll just chat about a few of them. One, Gears 5 is coming out. I was never a huge Xbox player, so I never got into the series. Seeing you guys.
I was a PlayStation guy myself.
I was also a PlayStation guy. I ended up getting an Xbox to play some games with my brothers because that's what they used for online multiplayer, which at the time I didn't get because at the time PlayStation was still free online and we all grew up with PlayStation. I'm not bitter. But regardless, I never did end up getting into Gears. I played a lot of Halo, which was still is Xbox only, but no Gears.
Yeah. Halo's pretty good.
Sorry.
So other games, and again, just because we're mentioning games doesn't mean we're necessarily recommending them. These are just the popular
Or
things.
not recommending them.
There you go.
This is all of our personal opinions.
Borderlands 3 is coming out. So Borderlands 2, I think, was the high point of the series.
Yes.
A lot of people were hyped about that. Where are you guys feeling about Borderlands 3? How are people feeling about that?
People are excited. I have a couple friends, real life friends, who, if you watched our video last week, we were talking about the launch of Classic WoW, who are in my guild. And they're real life friends of mine, and they've already told me that when that game comes out, they're gonna disappear for like 2 weeks. And I'm just like, come on, man, like just get to 60 first. But yeah, no, Borderlands 3 is drawing a pretty excited crowd for sure.
I don't know much, but if you haven't seen the cosplays, they're pretty unrealistic. And by that, I mean, it looks like actual cartoons.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah, people are very... I think rabid has too negative of a connotation, but they're very intense fans of Borderlands.
Yeah.
Which it took me a long time to get into that game series because originally I was actually turned off by the comic booky sort of action of the game, like the fact that everything looks like the bang, zoom, slap of like early comics, which is great in comics, but I didn't want in my video games.
Yeah.
But I've come to appreciate what Borderlands has added to culture.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. They're porting it on Switch, redoing it. A lot of people are hyped about this. I personally don't own a Switch. If I did, this would probably be a game I would pick up. What about you guys?
Same boat. Don't own a Switch, but if I did, I would get it. Just like I would have gotten Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna have to remedy that. All right,
Yeah.
get a
We
Switch.
should get a company Switch
Shatter Switch
Yes.
coming
that
up.
we all just like pass around.
Just pass around. There you go. Like it. All right. So The Outer Worlds is coming out. Some people say that's going to be kind of a Fallout replacement. As you guys probably know, Fallout 76 didn't land well with a lot of people. We won't get into that discussion. So they're
We
hoping
already
like
did.
The Outer Worlds will come out. For me, games like this, I really like games like this that you can explore. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. It is a mature game, so I'm always a little concerned how mature they're going to go. And so that's my hesitation. What about you guys? Have you heard anything about The Outer Worlds or anything?
That is not a game I've been following very much.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that game existed until now.
That's why I do the research, guys. We're moving on. So there's also Pokemon Sword and Shield. I love you guys. Pokemon. I can't even talk anymore.
This is the one I know. about.
Pokemon, guys.
Porcupine.
It's Porcupine Sword and Shield.
I can't even say it. You take it, Brian.
Pokemon Sword and Shield.
There you go.
Let's talk about that one for a second. How do you feel
So-
about it?
There hasn't been super big announcements about what's going on, but they've released like a couple new Pokemon designs, obviously. But basically, like the biggest new feature is you can turn Pokemon giant, mega-sized. That's like the big thing for this one. So
Woo.
I guess that's kind of cool, but it's like a lesser version of Mega Evolutions, I would think. I think.
In the words of Derek Liss here, not my thing, but cool. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, if you're hyped, I'm hyped for you.
I'm excited that you're excited by that. No, Pokemon's a very loved franchise. Go, play, have fun.
I mean, I'm wondering if they're running out of ideas for Pokemon because
Yeah.
there's literally
wanna-
like keys.
Fair.
Keys are a Pokemon now, like the lamp.
I want to look at them like that Michael Jordan gif. Stop. Get some help.
We're going off the rails. All right. So one game I am hyped about is the new Star Wars game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So yeah, it seems to be pretty cool. I always get hesitant by Star Wars games. I feel like I've been let down a lot. I love the idea of the Star Wars universe. I feel like we haven't been able to explore it very well in game. There's been a few
The MMO wasn't bad.
yeah, the MMO was okay, and then Knights of the Old Republic, very beloved. So I want another game like that. So what do you guys think about this?
I would agree. I really enjoyed the Jedi Knight games. There were two of them. I really enjoyed those back in the day.
Wasn't that the ones for the Wii?
No, I played them on
they're
PC.
PC,
PC
yeah.
games. Yeah.
Even before that.
Yep.
Never mind.
So I mean, I'm excited. Like you, what was the last game that I did it for? Not No Man's Sky. I don't pre-order games anymore. I've just been burned too many times, and so like Anthem, I was so hyped about Anthem, but I refused to pre-order it, and I'm glad I did
Good
it
choice.
because it flopped.
Yeah.
You know, they had a lot of work they still needed to do. Just like No Man's Sky, a year and a half later was a great game, but when it came out, it wasn't that good. And so a week after Fallen Order comes out, I'll decide whether or not I want to buy it. I'm excited for it, but we'll see.
Cool. Hopefully it's good. We'll see. So Death Stranding, a lot of buzz. A lot of people are
Yep.
talking about that. My note says no thanks, too weird. But I know that a lot of people like games like that. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious why you say too weird.
It's I've heard some thoughts on
afraid to
the
find out,
plot
honestly.
of it. And I think the plot might get kind of dark for me. I'm
It
not
will.
sure.
Yeah,
So,
it definitely looks like it's going to be pretty dark. I'm a Hideo Kojima fan, just in general. It's no secret that I love Metal Gear Solid. Got into that from the beginning. Just love his storytelling a lot. And this is the first big game. I think it might be the first game actually since he split with Konami back in 2015.
I think
'Cause
you're
this
right.
was the Death Stranding was announced in 2016 at E3. So it's had a long build up. And the last game that I got hyped about that had a long build up was The Division. And I really like The Division for all of its faults. I thought because the story really gripped me. And so I'm hoping that Death Stranding does the same. We'll see. Hideo Kojima tends to knock it out of the park. So
Cool.
I look forward to it.
Cool.
Cool.
Psychonauts 2 is coming out. Another beloved franchise. I never got into it, but yeah, cool.
Cool.
Police Knots is a Hideo Kojima game.
Neat.
I've never heard of that.
It's not related to Psychonauts.
Is that what you're?
It's what I was thinking earlier. It's like it's one word. It starts with a P. It ends in knots.
John was like, "Is that by Hideo?" I was like,
it was throwing me off. I was like, no, but Psychonauts, no.
All right, and then at the filming of this, a new game just released called Greedfall. It's kind of a lot of people are talking about being kind of a BioWare successor. As you guys know, in recent years, BioWare hasn't delivered. As
I thought that was the new name for EA.
Greedfall. Taking shots. Oh my goodness. We'll do
Got
something
him.
on EA later. Got him. Hey EA, hope you're doing well. Be fair to people.
If they're watching this, we're doing something right.
We're doing something right. Big time. Anyways,
EA is not
so
gonna sponsor
again,
us.
it's one of those games that's mature rating. I'm always hesitant about that. If it's a game where you can choose to do mature stuff, but you don't have to, then I'm good. If it's a game that forces you, I'm never a big fan of that. So
It's all right. You're still a child at heart.
What's that?
That's what you mean. You're still a child at heart.
I am.
That's what you mean by mature.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So, yeah. So those are rundowns of some of the games coming out. As you can see, we're hype about some, not hype about others. But yeah.
For the I will say this. There's a lot of franchise games in here. You got Star Wars, you got Pokemon, Borderlands, Gears of War 5, Legend of Zelda. But you have Greedfall, you have Death Stranding, you have Outer Worlds. Like, those three games could all be great or they could all be terrible. Mm-hmm. And what I'm excited about is that they're original new content. Mm-hmm. And so that has me excited. One of the things that we were going to kind of talk about here in a second is playing games that are expansive, that are immersive, that have worlds to explore. And so the excitement of having potentially three new universes to play in, mm-hmm. These new IPs that are coming out, is exciting to me. And if I was a Gears of War fan, I'm sure I would be extremely excited for Gears 5, like a lot of the people in the community are. But as just a general gamer, I'm excited that there's big games coming out that we have never heard of before. Mm-hmm. Because those could end up being 1, 2, or 3 games down the road. And if new original content does really well, then we get more new original content. Mm-hmm. Instead of in 2035 talking about Gears of War 17.
It could happen.
It could happen. We'll see more new and original games, which I would love. Different worlds to explore, which for me, when I get to do that, you're taking a journey through with the creators of the game. Like when you play World of Warcraft, you can't help but think about the people who designed the game. And there was a whole book that was released by some of the people who designed zones and dungeons, and Kaplan did a lot of work. He was the lead producer way back in the day. His team, they did Molten Core in a week, and so it's cool to kind of see the mind of the creator through what they created. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but that's why I like story. Yeah. Tim.
Great point.
That was a joke for one person.
You know who you are. So that's awesome, and I like all that. Thank you very much. It's getting awkward here. No, I like all that. I like new IPs. I like exploring new worlds, and so that gets close to our fate point that we're talking about today. Okay. So as we're coming up with this list, it dawned on me just a lot of games I'm excited about are games that you can explore, games that have huge lore that you can dig into, great environments. And it just made me think, why do, not just myself, other people as well, why do we like games like that? Games where there's a lot of history that's made up, where the creators spent a lot of time, creating how things would look and design, stuff like that. And it just made me think, is that somehow reflecting kind of our relationship with God? And just our desire to be a part of His creation. Every now and again, when we put down the controller and actually go outside, it's always great to reflect and see how amazing this world is. And just want to talk to you guys about that a little bit. Just what do you think is the correlation between kind of us exploring worlds in games and us exploring the real world? What do you guys think?
I think people really like to be immersed in things that they do. So like people will, if they have a bad day or something, they might go play a video game and get immersed and forget about the world and their problems. Me personally, I live close to a lake. So whenever I have like a bad day or I'm getting anxious or something happens, I will actually walk over there and, look at the lake and his creation and all the trees. And, if the sun's up, I can see the sun and his creation. And I just feel like that's something really beautiful about God's creation that we can do.
Yeah. No, me as well. As much as I love games, one thing I think we talk about a lot in Christian circles is when do you feel closest to God, or what do you do to get close to Him, right? Very rarely do people say they go into like their room and pray, and that's their intimate one with God. Some people have those, and that's their thing. They turn on some worship music and just sit there and read His Word. But for a lot of people, it's experiential, and for me, it's nature as well. If I'm dealing with basically exactly, I would just echo everything you said. For me, it's in Ohio, where I lived for a while. There was a forest right behind my house. And I would just walk through it for hours and just spend so much time in there. There was something about walking through the trees and getting away from everything. Even on a sunny day, it was full of shade, and it was great. And it kind of going back to what I said about, when you're playing a game like WoW, you kind of get into the mind of the creator. When you're walking around in nature, I feel like I'm getting more intimate knowledge of God because He intentionally created the things that I'm seeing. When I look at a bunch of trees over there, like God put those there intentionally. And so why? Were they here for me in this moment? Am I that important? Or are they here for everybody who's going to walk by and notice the trees? Because that's God, because He cares, and so spending that time in nature, it reminds me of how insignificant I am by worldly standards, especially like standing next to a big tree, but how significant I am to God, that He put something in me that I can experience and feel closer to Him.
It's awesome. There's a cool verse in the Bible, Psalm 19:1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of His hands." And I love what you guys just said. I think when I go out in nature, and I like water too. When I was in college, there was a stream that flowed through our campus, and every time I had to make a big decision or just wanted to spend time with God, I would just go walking. And it was like Jesus was right there walking with me. And I think a lot of times the reasons we feel connect with God out in nature is we see His creation. And I love the diversity of creation. I love that God made trees and they don't all look the same. I love animals and just how goofy some look and how fun others look. I love people and just the diversity that we have. And God could have made everyone look the same. He could have made all of creation look the same, but He's a creative God. And I think every time we're creative, every time we're experiencing creativity, we're experiencing part of God as well. And I love that. I love what you were saying, Brian. Like when you do go through a hard time, one of the best things to do is get disconnected from this world and focus on God and creation. And what I mean by that is like, put down Facebook, put down your phone, yes, even put down a controller once in a while. And I know, right? And actually go outside and spend some time with God. I think that's when we get centered, reconnected with Him. And again, I think it's cool to appreciate the different aspects of God that He reveals to us through nature, through hanging out with other people that He created. It's just amazing to know, as you were saying, John, that this God who created everything cares enough about each one of us as well, that He wants to spend time with us. The Bible says in Genesis that God walked in the Garden of Adam, and just the idea that God spent time with them. And I'm a firm believer we have as much of God as we want. It's up to us, how much time we want to spend with God. God is always there. He's always excited. He always wants to be part of our life, and it's just us realizing that and being connected with Him.
That's really good.
And just because we all three say that nature is what we do to escape. It doesn't mean that that's the only way. Like maybe you like talking to people and interacting with people. That could be how you escape, making people laugh, seeing other people smile. That could be something that kind of distresses you or whatever. So it just doesn't have to be nature.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that video games is a bad thing and you can't not escape through video games. It's just...
I took a week off of work for Classic. I took a week of vacation time. Actually, less because the office closed for the hurricane for 2 days. So I got a few days back from my vacation. But yeah, no, definitely not saying video games are bad.
Yeah, I love all that. And yes, there's many different ways that you can kind of disconnect from troubles and reconnect with God. And I think the cool thing is inviting God into everything that we do. While you're playing a video game, while you're watching a movie, like, hey, God's right there. So there's some great things that God can even show you through that. So yeah, I think that's really cool.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you
both for being here. That was a great conversation. I know we're excited about games. We're excited about things that are coming out in 2019. Different games excite us differently, but it's always encouraging to be able to come together and share the excitement that we have of just getting closer to God.
Again, celebrating God's diversity. We all have different opinions, and
that's okay. And that's my takeaway for the day. We all have different opinions, and that's okay.
It's fine.
And you have a great week. There's no joke for upcoming games in 2019. There's no joke for that.
That's what the joke is.
Joke?
Oh, that's going to be the joke. Dang it. I wish we just told that. We said, dang it.
I mean, if all the cameras were recording.